What's up, party people? It's Chris from ProPhoto, and this is Geared Up, our weekly live broadcast where we talk about lighting, gear, techniques, all kinds of fun stuff, and we just have a good time. If you're watching this right now on ProPhoto.com, you're probably gonna see some links pop up around the screen. If you want more information on anything that we're talking about, you can click those bad boys, and then our video will pop up in the corner. So you won't lose the live broadcast if you wanna kind of go explore whatever it is that we're talking about. If you're watching this on YouTube or on the old Facebook, you're probably not gonna see those, and by probably, I mean you're definitely not gonna see those. So if you want that experience, go to ProPhoto.com. If you don't really care, just stay here and watch it with us. We're going to be taking your comments and your questions if you have any. So let's get into it. What are we talking about today? We're talking about how to light paint using a studio strobe, so using your flash, but also dragging that shutter to add some cool visual elements to your photograph. So it's really cool setup. And how you do it, and I kind of think the idea of what we're doing kind of throws everybody for a little, not everybody, but it throws a lot of people for a little bit of a loop, because there's a lot of preconceived notions when it comes to how cameras work and how lighting works, and we're going to try to demystify some of those with our lighting setup. I'm holding my cool, my handy dandy little light painter that I made. I'm pretty proud of this thing.
Proud.
I'm super proud of this thing. I'm going to hang on to it. I told Kate, walked in this morning, I was like, MacGyvered the heck out of something. So it's very, very cool stuff. So what we're going to be doing for this is using long exposure. So we're going to have our aperture set to wherever we want. We're going to have our ISO set. But when it comes to the world of flash, the power of your flash can be influenced by two settings on your camera. It can be influenced by your f-stop, it can be influenced by your ISO. What it can't be influenced by for the most part, and we're gonna leave high speed sync out of this, is your shutter speed. So your shutter speed is gonna control a lot of your ambient light. How much background light you let in, or how much background light you keep out by how fast or slow you have your shutter going. So in long exposure, what we're doing is we're allowing the shutter to stay open, so we're dragging that shutter. That's, if you ever hear anyone talk about dragging the shutter, that's what they're talking about. Just leaving the shutter open longer than it necessarily needs to be open to expose what's happening with the flash. So in dragging that shutter, we're going to be able to actually see the trails of light as their movement. You'll be able to see that movement. That is something that starts to throw people for a little bit of a loop, because they're like, well, I'm photographing a person in this. I don't want that person moving. And this is where things are a little bit funky. So in the flash world, when you have all of your ambient light controlled, like we have here in the studio, so we have our shades down over the windows, we have flags over our door windows and stuff like that, so we are in complete control of our light. When you're in complete control and there's no extra light influencing your image, your shutter is irrelevant, because the thing that becomes your shutter is the flash itself, right? So the instantaneous moment that that light flashes, bop, it has frozen in time your subject. So your subject will be super sharp. Now, if there's extra light influencing that subject and they move a little bit, then there can be a little bit of motion blur. But for the most part, if there's not, this flash is so much faster than your camera shutter speed. So this is going to stop that action immediately, and then you can start to add in some fun visual elements with your light painting. So when you have all the control over your shot, your flash is going to become your shutter, and the shutter in your camera is a touch less irrelevant. It's not completely irrelevant, but just a touch less. So let's get into, I'm checking out my notes to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So cool, we talked about knocking down the ambient, and that's what we've done here. So we've knocked down all the lights. We're using a V flat back here, and if you can see on the side, Caitlin will flip over to the side shot so you can kind of see the lights. So both lights have grids on them, right? So that's so we can keep all of the extra spill off the background, off of everything else. We want the light right where we want it, which is going to be on Kate. Cool. And then the rest of the stuff we want to stay black for the most part, because I'm going to be moving around in the scene. The other cool thing is, because I'm going to be moving and there's not really any light on me, we're not going to really see me in the shot. You'll see me moving with the light and doing all the kind of funky hand wand movement things that Kate's been making fun of me for the last couple of hours. as we were shooting like BTS shots and stuff like that. But because I'm moving, I don't show up in the shot. Now, if I was to stand still for a few seconds, a ghost of me would appear in the shot eventually, depending on how much light was on me. But I'll disappear. And then I tried to wear some darker clothes so that wouldn't really happen too. So that's really, really cool stuff. So we want to keep the ambient super low. We want to keep the flash right where we want it on the subject. So we're using grids. So we have a 3-foot octa up here on a B10X. We have a 1x4 strip down here on a B10X, both gridded. And that's so, again, I want to keep, and just so you kind of understand the process of this too and why this light setup's like this. So another thing to keep the background a little bit darker is we're using the inverse square law. So we're keeping the light as close to the subject as possible. That way it falls off really, really quick. So that's the reason that we have this. So that if I was just going with the octa right here, it would light Kate's face and upper body pretty good, but we would lose all this pretty quickly. So I have just this super clamped up here too, so it kind of makes this cool full body light, which is really, really neat. And you'll see that here just momentarily. So the grids are there to help control the ambient. We're going to turn off all the lights here in a few minutes to also control the ambient, because all of this stuff will influence the movement of Kate. It'll influence less me painting with the light, but once the light freezes Kate, if there's any extra lights happening, they will influence her movement and she will look blurry. So, and we want to minimize that. So that's what we're doing there. So all lights will be off. We're gridded, black background, lights kind of pointed away. So that's the idea behind controlling the ambient. Let's talk about curtains for a second. So when it comes to dragging the shutter, you can use your first curtain or your second curtain. So essentially your curtain on your flash is, you have these two curtains. When you hit your trigger on your button, the first curtain opens, and when that first curtain stops opening, or when that first curtain opens completely, that's when the flash fires. And then the second curtain closes whenever the exposure is done, right? So if your first curtain sinking, when this opens all the way, flash fires, second curtain closes. If your second curtain sinking, camera opens, and right before the second curtain closes, it fires the flash and then closes. That's important in how the light trails. So if you were doing the same thing with like a car, you would probably want to do a second curtain sync. That way when you flash the car, the lights don't keep going forward, or it kind of would look back to the future-ish. With like these, just the light streaks continue to go, but the car's frozen back here. So second curtain, you would fire the shot, and so you would start capturing the light streaks, and then the flash would fire here at the close of the shutter, and then that's how you're gonna be able to stop the car but still have the streaks. So that's kind of the idea behind the first and second curtain. It doesn't matter so much here.
Stay still for the model though.
Yeah.
I had light beams coming out of my head.
Yeah. Depending on when we were doing some of the experimenting around with it, again, because she's not really moving, first and second curtain doesn't matter that much. It's one of those things when there's a lot of motion, you might want to think about where you want the person to land in, or the subject to land in response to how the light's moving. Because she wasn't moving, it didn't really matter, but just think about that. And that's how first and second curtain works, because those are also important things to think about when you're going to drag the shutter on your camera. So we've talked a whole lot about the technicalities of this. How about we just take some photos of it, right?
Let's do it.
So we're going to take some photos. Let me pull out my Fuji trigger here. Make sure we're connected there. It looks like we are happy.
Okay, I'm going to pull us to the side shot here.
Yeah. So heads up, it's going to get dark in here. You're going to see my computer screen up there, so you're going to see what we're making, and I'm going to set the camera up where we want before we start doing all that stuff. But it's going to get dark in here because we need the ambient light to cut down. You will see our lights moving, and then what we'll do is I think we'll probably just kick on this one light right here really quickly to just kind of talk really fast, especially if anyone has any questions. But it's going to get dark, so if you can't really see what's happening here, just kind of pay attention to what's happening on.
You'll see some sporadic movement.
You'll see some sporadic movement. Yeah, you'll see some funky dance moves by me. I patented them, so you're gonna have to pay royalties if you use them. And watch the computer screen, because that's probably a little bit more important what we're doing. So let's get Kate set up.
All right, sounds good.
So, let's just talk really fast so you can know what I'm light painting with. So my little wand I've made, so you can kind of see it up close. Here we go. So it's just 2 C1 pluses, right? So I have click gels on them. I have a peacock blue click gel on this one, and then this is set to daylight balance. The cool thing about the C1 pluses is the LEDs can be set to either daylight balanced or tungsten balanced, which is really, really dope. So the blue one is set to daylight balance, so I'm getting true blue. And then on this one, we have a CTO, full CTO gel, and this one is set to tungsten balance. And that's just to continue the warming process of this, because I want this to be orange, I want this to be blue. They're really good complementary colors. They look really nice. And then I just, if some people are always bound to ask what the rigging is on this thing. It's just an umbrella adapter with a pin coming out of it into the 1/4-20 slot of this one. And then I'm using a ball head that is a cold shoe mount on this thing with another 1/4-20 on that side, so I have like a handle. I was doing this before, hand holding them with 2, and I chucked one of the C1s across the room. So this is much more usable. And then again, we're just gonna turn on the continuous lights. We're gonna light paint like this. Kind of dope, right? Pretty sick. And then the other thing that we're gonna use is a B10. This thing has the OCF adapter on it, the OCF2 adapter with the magnetic gel inside of it. It's got a jade green gel on it. And then hooked to the OCF adapter is a 1x3 strip, and this will add some cool diffusion. I'll also show you some cool things that you can do, especially with the green, that Kate and I kind of have discovered over some time of doing this, and maybe it'll inspire you to do some cool stuff. It's inspired us to do some cool stuff, so that's that. So just so you know what lights we're using, 2 C1 pluses and a B10X, 1x3 strip on that thing, nothing else. There's no front diffusion. You could use the strip mask if you wanted to, if you wanted to narrow it up, but I think it looks cool without it. And then 2 C1 pluses. So let's do it.
So do we need to drop the light?
We're gonna drop the light. I just wanna make sure you're centered up first. So let's get the camera where it's supposed to be. Cool. Turn this sideways. This is really fun stuff. I like doing some of this creative stuff. And the cool thing is, it's a really fun way to add like a dynamic look to your shot. Take a tiny step to your right. There we go.
Something like this.
Yeah, you do something like that.
Sounds great.
Now let's make sure you're in focus. We're gonna take a quick tester. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and so you can see on that test shot, because we have a lot of the extra, there's a lot of extra light in there, and we are already dragging the shutter. So stand back up in the center. I just kicked my flash. There we go. We are adding in a whole bunch of extra light right now because I haven't dimmed anything. You can see this is how that dragging that shutter will cause your subject to blur if you have too much light on there, and that's why we're gonna cut it all back. And that's what we're gonna do right now. So just hang there, Kate, and I'll do this. And then we'll show you how you can use other like fun lighting products to enhance the shot too towards the end. It'd be really, really fun stuff. So again, it's gonna get dark in here. All the lights off.
I can help you, but I'm trying to keep it soft.
This makes for very compelling stuff, right? Here I am right here. So,
You can light yourself.
yeah, I'm gonna light myself with my C1s. Sick. So it is dark in here. I'm lighting myself with C1 so we can see. I need to get my trigger. So again, the flash is gonna freeze Kate. I'm trying to figure out how to light myself to make this not terrible. So, so the flash is gonna freeze Kate, and then I'm gonna dance around like a shadow dancer with these lights, and you're gonna see the cool light trails that we add. So very, very cool stuff.
You're using your trigger on your phone.
And I'm using the trigger on my phone to hold the exposure. So here we go. You ready, Kate?
Yes.
So 3, 2, 1. There's a little light down there, and then we're coming up, and then we're just gonna keep kind of moving it however you wanna do it, just as organic as you might want. And then bop. I just have to wait for the camera to load here. So the longer exposure just takes it a second to build the actual shot. Actually, while we're talking, I'll just flip this on for a split second. But there you go. How cool is that, right? If you look at Kate, and we'll go in really, really tight here in just a second and show you that she is crystal clear. She's tack sharp. She's the flash stopped any motion that she was doing, and then on top of that, we were able to take this and add some cool dynamics. So if you see the little orange swipe in the front, I was able to take this and just stay low and swipe it across the front and then just keep moving. Really, really cool stuff. So It's a really fun way to add some cool dynamic stuff to it. The one thing that's really cool about the jade green inside of the softbox is if you wanted to in studio like recreate some cool like shot of the aurora, right? Like this is the kind of things, the conceptual things you can think of when you're trying to decide, you know, is this light painting thing? Because I mean, if you saw like the Instagram story shot, it's really rainbowy, it's really fun, which some people may love that kind of stuff. But maybe if you're going for something a little more conceptual and you want to try to recreate like, you know, the snowy Scandinavian up north in Scandinavia, then, you know, that'd be really, really cool with the aurora and tons of snow. You can have a snow machine. So just ideas like that. So you can use these techniques to just create cool stuff. So again, it could be something really, really fun and whimsical with a lot of colors, or it could be something a little more conceptual like that. So very cool stuff. So that's how we did that with just, you know, Profoto lights. So a couple C1s, really, really cool stuff. Now we're just for funsies, we're gonna throw in, oh, and just for the record, I have the air turned off on this. That way it doesn't accidentally flash and infiltrate the shot. Cool. You wanna see if there's any questions that way? I'll grab the light.
What is the shutter speed on the ISO?
So shutter speed I'm using, so my camera settings are f16 because that's the most closed down I can get my lens. So I'm f16. So I'm shooting pretty high power. I think I'm almost full power on both my lights. f16, ISO 160, and we're shooting bulb. So what bulb is, it just means that when you press the shutter of your button down, the curtains stay open for as long as that button is pressed. So yeah, so as long as you have that button pressed down, it keeps your shutter open until you let that button go. And because I'm moving, we're able to add a lot of the light trails, but the flash is what stopped Kate. So it doesn't really matter how long that shutter is open. As long as there's no extra light polluting Kate, then there shouldn't be any motion blur from her. The flash should stop whatever her pose is in that moment, and then we can add whatever we want to add with, I mean, if you look at the, we have a BTS shot that will probably be, you know, posting up in the next day or so. That BTS shot was really long. It was probably like a 10-second exposure because we had to light Kate. I had to show the light painting, but also it's so dark in here and I wanted you to see what we were using that I had to go and light paint the names of the products on these things. So it was like this fun dance where like I turned it on and I started light painting, and then I went around, I dropped one light, I walked around, and then I light painted the modifier. So again, the flash is what's going to stop the subject as long as you don't have any extra light, and that's why controlling the ambient
do you want to do the
is so important.
Do you want to do the opposite curtain to show?
Yeah, I mean, we can do the second curtain. It shouldn't really change anything, but you can kind of see how the second curtain is going to work. So let's do that. It's not a bad idea. Someone's bound to ask. Let's go. So a second curtain, for the most part, pretty easy to do. Just set your camera to rear. So yeah, you're good in your position.
Okay.
I'm just gonna take a little tester shot just to make sure we're good light-wise. 3, 2, 1. Cool. So the light's perfect. So let's do this again. Second curtain this time. So as soon as I hit the trigger, I'm gonna start light painting, and then when I run back and deactivate the trigger, we're gonna get the shot. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. So I'm painting. Cool stuff. We have this light not on, and now we're gonna add it back in there really fast. Cool stuff. Really cool. And then as soon as I deactivate, it flashes. And we just have to give it a second to build that exposure because it was a pretty long exposure. And we can see, because she's not really moving, it shouldn't matter that much whether we're first or second curtain, but that's something that's gonna matter a lot more in something with a lot more motion, but that's second curtain. So essentially we did the same thing, and we'll compare them side by side here in just a couple minutes just so you can see that. But let's just do the rainbow thing since, so we're just using a light tube. There's a lot of these really cool ones out there in the world. This is by Nanlite. It's a Pavo tube. I love this thing. My daughter loves the fact that it does this rainbow thing. She loses her absolute mind over it. So there's that.
So here we go.
Yeah. So I'm gonna flip back to first curtain, because Kate is going to be moving here. And when we were doing, so you're going to stand in place really fast? Yeah. So there we go. Make sure you're focused. It's F16, everything's in focus, but cool. So here we go. Cool, so you guys can actually see her holding the light stick, which is dope. I can turn this off because I'm not really gonna use the green. So here we go, 3. This is first curtain, Kate, so it is gonna flash.
Okay.
So 3, 2, 1. Doing some light painting. Offsies. Cool. Let's kick this back on. And this is how we created the main shot that you see on the story. So with the little bit of movement she's doing, it's kind of making that butterfly effect with the light tube. And then because those lights are moving, I don't know if you can see this, the lights are actually tracking. So that's what's causing kind of that fun, like kind of tie-dye blend that's happening there. It's kind of neat. So really, really cool stuff. These Pavo tubes are kind of dope.
Mary has a question. What
Yeah.
if the model was moving and you were dragging the shutter? Could you get the light motion on her?
Yes. So it just depends. Again, it depends on. So here, what can I have? Maybe I'll have you do like a twist or something like that.
Make sure there aren't any other questions. I think we're good.
So I'll have Kate do like a little bit of a twist. Again, the flash should stop any motion that she's doing. So it doesn't matter if that's first curtain or second curtain. You just have to decide. So let's say that you're light painting a dancer, right? And maybe you're gonna have them do what's a really tall jump or something like this, so I don't sound like a dummy.
I don't know.
Caitlin's dancing
like
for how much years? Yeah, maybe she's doing like some jump, an aerial. Let's just say she's doing an aerial. A jeté.
Well,
they're doing an aerial, and you want to catch the shot in the aerial, but then you want to light paint. So what you would do is you would stay first curtain, right? Because you know exactly where you want to start that image capture. So they would jump. You'd fire at the pinnacle of the shot, and then you could run in there and leave the shutter open and go in there and light paint around. So that's how you could stop that motion if someone is moving. So let's just have Kate kind of move a little bit, and we'll see how that works. Cool. I'm gonna leave the Pavo tube out of this, and we'll just use this thing again. Cool. So let's go. Yeah, don't go too far back just because the camera's low, so it'll be very chinny. So it might be it might be chinny. Yeah, that's too far back. Oh, you're trying to hair flip?
I was trying to do like some sort of hair flip.
Just maybe,
yeah, just maybe. I could just look a different way if you want me to.
Yeah, you know what? Do a look this way, and then I'll say 3, 2, 1. Hair flip towards the light.
Cool. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Got it.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, hold on.
I think I missed it.
Yeah. I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna let you say 3, 2, 1 for the hair flip, and then I'm gonna fire the trigger.
I'm gonna go the opposite direction, I think.
You should go towards the light.
Towards the light. Okay.
Oh, maybe, start at the light. In case we miss it, you're at least looking at the light. All right, cool. So, count me down.
3, 2, flip.
The only thing that you would want is you want to make sure that once the subject gets into their position where they stop, you're going to want them to kind of hold. You want them to stay as still as they can, because, and you'll probably see that in some of this. Sorry, I have something in my eye. You'll probably see that in this, that there is, there's probably going to be some breaks in the light, just from the movement. It is what it is. Let's try it one more time and see if we get a better.
Blurred.
Well, it's not going to be blurred. Again,
The line of light.
Again, the light is fast, so it's going to stop the action. So here, I'll count you down.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. We're just going to go one light for right now. Okay. Hopefully we caught the hair flip with that one. We'll see what happens. But, oh, you can actually see the ghosting in there.
Hilarious.
You can actually see the ghosting in that last one. Cool. So,
oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Funky.
Cool. So let's flip on the lights and we can talk about this stuff and see if there's any questions. But yeah, really, really easy stuff to do. Really fun. Again, an easy way to add like a dynamic look to your shot. And you can use it in a lot of different ways. Whoa, chill out there. Elbow in the flag. All right, cool. Sorry, we're just kicking the lights back up for a split second. Let's get that back up.
Where are you? You're hiding in the corner.
Yeah, I'm down here. Look a little.
Look at the
I'm like a little lawn gnome. So just kind of squatting down on the corner. Here we go. Let's get this camera out here. I'm finally starting to kill my tether cable, so I'm sure that I'm tugging on it right now, and it's like disconnect, disconnect, disconnect. Are we in business here? Cool. So, oh, cool. So we were able to. This will be a good shot for the capture, the stopping the capture motion. So you can see for the most part the hair is pretty crisp. It's stopped for the most part. There's not really too much stuff infiltrating, but you can see it starts to ghost here. So where I started to add some more light in, it starts to disappear. But you can still stop some of that action. Again, the tough thing is going to be holding still once you're done there, because you can see here with this one where she flipped the hair with this majestic face she's making right here. You can see the ghost of her face behind where I wasn't able to paint where she was. So it's just one of those things you got to put, and then you can see here too in that movement, there's a little bit of the light here on her neck, here on her arm. So it's one of those things you kind of have to play around with and find the motion. But, you know, I think first curtain sync would work really well here, or you could do second curtain where the hair flip, where this person is the person that's lit and this person right here is the movement. It just depends on how you catch it. But maybe it's not such spastic movements that will help with something like that. So let's talk about, let's see if there's a big difference between first and second curtain. Let's go full screen. So for the most part, there's not really a huge difference. The little black lines that you can see here, like around her arm and stuff like that, that's just her. It's hard as a human just to be frozen and not move a little bit. Same thing here with on the first curtain shot with the hair. You can see the ghost of her hair from where her head moves slightly. It just is what it is. I mean, in some of this stuff, it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but it's really cool. Again, a really fun way to add some dynamic stuff to your shot. Again, you don't have to have a funky light tube. That's just something that I have because I do a lot of video production stuff. It's a fun little tool that I have that I can do that stuff with. Again, we were just using gels and C1 pluses. I mean, those things are, I use my C1 plus all the time for, my cell phone photography because I really like it. It's really easy to keep with me, but it's a really useful tool for other things, for like practical lights. I put them in lamps sometimes. And then
what is your Kelvin temperature
on my camera?
Is it what you use with Profoto lights?
Yeah, so my light temperature here on my flashes is the standard Profoto light temp. I think I have my Kelvin on my camera set to match it, which is around 6100. Let me just double check so I can make sure I'm not saying the wrong things. But I'm pretty sure I have my Kelvin set to roughly that. Yeah, I have my Kelvin set to 5900. So I'm 5900 on my Kelvin on my camera, and that's just to match the kind of the glow of the Profoto lights. So that's how I have that set. The rest of the stuff is gelled, so it doesn't really matter what the color temperature is. But the reason that on the orange C1 Plus I use the tungsten LEDs is just to keep the orange warmth. And then on the blue side I kept it daylight balanced, so it stayed more true blue. So really cool stuff. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Cool. The one thing I haven't done, and I just want to flip over to YouTube really fast because I did not set my iPad up today, and I want to make sure that there's, and I'm talking, let's see. Hey, what's up, Brazil? What's up, everybody? I'm not sure if Nikon cameras, someone asked if Nikon cameras have second curtain. I'm not really sure. My D800 did. So I don't know how old that is in the world of cameras. I guess that's like 5D Mark III range. So maybe like late 20 or early 2010s. Morning from the Philippines. What's up? Do you usually work without an assistant? I mean, Kate, when we're doing this live stuff,
we're a two-man team.
Yeah, we're a two-man team. Whenever we go do gigs, she usually comes with me and she helps out with stuff like that. But I do stuff by myself all the time. There's sometimes that she just can't be there. So I do one-person stuff all the time. This, for the most part, whenever she's in model mode, it's kind of one man. So like I have to trigger the light. I have to grab the lights. I have to dance around and paint it. So, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. If you need to learn how to do it, you do it. But sometimes I'm one man. Sometimes, or most of the time you get both of us, but sometimes I'm one man. Let's see. That's a nice looking V-flat. I appreciate that. I made that. was pretty proud of myself. The first time I ever tried to make one of these things and I did the tape job in the middle, it was atrocious. I was like, what the heck am I thinking? And then I just used my brain for like 3 seconds. I don't do that too often.
Oh, hey, sorry, I cut the black screen there.
That's awesome. Oh!
Hey, we're back.
Oh, sorry, the wide shot. I forgot to plug the battery in so this thing wouldn't go out.
That'll do it.
Gotcha. So, but yeah, I'm pretty proud of my tape job here. Pretty good stuff. So, awesome. That's all the stuff that I see on the tube of views. Very cool stuff. Any other questions there before we sign out for the day?
Let's see. Looks like a curtain, rear curtain. It's someone's commenting on something we did. It looks like that you could use the rear curtain, have her stand in place, light paint, and then move to create the cool silhouette.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
100%. You can definitely do that. There's a lot of really cool options and stuff out there that you can do with it. And again, it's a lot of playing with it and getting it totally wrong until you get it just the way that you want. I mean, good Lord, when we were preparing for all this stuff, there were 50 million things that we wanted to do. We're like, it's just not for the space that we're working with. It just doesn't make any sense. So, but we made it work and we were able to kind of come up with some cool stuff. But this is really fun. Let's do for anyone who's joining late and didn't catch the very front part, let's just talk about the quick things that we need to remember when we're going to do light painting.
You mean to break down?
Yeah. I mean, we can just go. I mean, yeah, you can go to the breakdown shot and let people see the photos. So, when we're light painting, we're using long exposure. So you can decide if you want like a 1 second exposure or a 3 second exposure. For this, we were using bulb. Bulb just means that the shutter of the camera stays open for the entire time that you're pressing down the button. Or on the app that I was using, I had the button held down there on the app. So bulb just stays open as long as you have that trigger activated. So that's what we were using, bulb. So it just means we're dragging that shutter, really long exposures. Good stuff. In a long exposure or in anything where you can control the ambient completely, your flash becomes your shutter. So that's why Kate is frozen in the shot. The flash froze her instantaneously, and then by dragging the shutter, we were able to paint the light into spots. So flash becomes your shutter. This is what's going to stop that action. You want to try to mitigate as much ambient light as possible. That's why we have the blinds closed. That's why we have flags over the windows. That's why we have a V-flat that's in front of the seamless back there. We want as many layers away from all the extra light that we can. So control your ambient light. Flash will freeze your subject. That becomes your shutter. Do everything that you can to control the spill. Grids, huge. So all of our soft boxes, the 3-foot Octa, the 1x4 strip, all have grids on them. That is to keep the light right where we want it and off the stuff that we don't. We talked about that on the IGTV. We talked about that recently with grids. Grids are awesome. Just going through my thing to make sure we have them for first and second curtain sync. You can play with both of them depending on what you want. Your first curtain means that when the first curtain opens, the flash will fire and then the second curtain will close eventually, right? Second curtain just means that you will start exposing once the first curtain opens and the flash fires right before the second curtain closes. That matters if you are photographing movement and long exposure. So again, like car scenario, if you're doing long exposure, first curtain sync and you flash and the car keeps driving, the car's frozen here, the lights keep moving. Cool. Second curtain means that you start the exposure, lights are trailing, flash, the car's here, so the lights go into the car. It makes more sense. So if there's movement involved, really try to think, is second curtain sync or first curtain sync make more sense for this situation? That's important. And after all that, try to make sure your subject can stay as still as possible and just have fun with it. Screw up 90 million shots, you'll probably get 3, and that's all you really need. So just have a ton of fun. Again, thank you so much for kicking it with us today. This was super fun. Gear-wise, it's pretty minimal. I mean, we used a couple soft boxes, a couple C1 pluses, and we had a great time. So if you have any questions, if you want to jump into like a one-on-one breakout session and talk to one of our product experts, you can check the link in the comment section. Pretty easy stuff. In the meantime, I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. Stay super safe. We'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of Geared Up. Peace out, everybody.